That's great, Mohammed. That looks fine.
We'll start in a few minutes. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session today. The session will be on Canterbury Christ Church University on the Engineering, Technology and Design School. And with us today from the university, we have Dr. Anne Nortcliffee, founding head of School of Engineering, Technology and Design. Over to you, Anne.
Welcome. So Canterbury Christ Church, please can we move to the next slide? So we created an engineering department over the last 2 years, so it's new. And we're based in the southeast of England, established as an institution in 1962. We gained university status in 2005. And we've been at the forefront of developing areas of learning where there's been shortfalls and need in support. So historically it was teaching, nursing in the 1980s, and today it's addressing the engineering shortfall locally, nationally and globally. Next slide, please. Now, to place Canterbury in context, because not only about educational learning, you want to know that this is going to be a place that you're going to feel comfortable and at home at for the next 3 to 4 years while you're studying. So the county's named was originally Cant, hence Canterbury, by the Roman Emperor Caesar. He arrived on our shores only briefly, heard the name and then went back to Rome. It is the most student-friendly city in the country and has the highest ratio of students to residents than any other city in the UK. So there's 3 universities living in this medieval city. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and it's certainly most visited city in the UK. And you know, it really buzzes with the tourists and students there all year round. And even Mahatma Gandhi even visited the city in 1931, so that's placed in context. And it is medieval. A huge proportion of the housing stock in the city is medieval, so we are talking about 14th century properties, which students do rent as student halls, as student accommodation, so you get opportunity of a different way of life. We are very close to the sea, 7.1 miles to Whitstable, and the famous beaches for oysters, and we do get snow. So I always, international students always do ask, do we get snow? Will I experience snow during the 3 years? Certainly in the 3 years I've been living in Kent, where I've seen snow each winter. And we've got the Kent Downs near, so the Canterbury is not flat, it's surrounded by the Kent Downs, and it is very green and very lush. So it's very pretty and attractive, and Kent's known as the Garden of Eden of the UK. So next slide, please. So the engineering programmes are new to the institution. We've been running engineering for the last couple of years. We have the opportunity of you studying a BEng, which is a 3-year undergraduate programme, or if you meet the entry requirements, the MEng, which is a 4-year programme. We have chemical engineering, but this is focused on pharmaceutical, cosmetic and food industry, rather than typically oil and gas. And as we know, this year has really highlighted that we need pharmaceutical chemical industry, very much so at the moment, and they desperately need chemical engineers. Biomedical engineering, this has been developed in co-design with industry, and this is more mechatronics and mechanical engineering program for biomedical engineering. We have traditional mechanical engineering, but there's 3 different routes within that of systems, building services, and advanced manufacturing. Building services in particular is a huge proportion of your flats, corporate offices, etc. And your construction companies are very dependent on engineering infrastructure this day and age, with the air conditioning, ventilation system and heating system are designed and maintained by engineers. So there's a large amount of industry seeking engineers from this background. And then we've got project design engineering as well. Now, entry requirements for BEng and MEng does have a entry requirements of maths or physics. If you don't have the necessary learning and level of maths and physics, there is an opportunity to come in on the foundation level, which a number of international students have done over the last 2 years and have been progressing very well on the programme. We do have a placement module, the opportunity in your second year to do a placement. This can be a traditional placement where you go out into industry for a whole year, or it can be doing a placement over the summer period, or it can be working with a local firm 1 day a week whilst you're studying the rest of your degree. Postgraduate opportunities in engineering, we currently have, starting this September, an MSc in Advanced Manufacturing and Technology and an MSc in Manufacturing System Technology with Robotics. And like the undergraduate programme, BEng and MEng, these are very much focused on Industry 4 and Industry 5. And we have equipment which is Industry 4 and Industry 5 in our laboratories to support that learning. In actual fact, last week and this week and next week and the week after, our current first year students are working with Industry 5 robots already in their curriculum. And there's also the opportunity for MSc by research. Next slide, please. So not only in the engineering department, we have computing programs, we've got business information systems, computer security, security and forensics, computing science, and software engineering. Now, the difference between these are business information systems. Your career would be going into a management role, managing the IT service and support systems for a large corporation or a small corporation. Computer security and forensics, our graduates go and work into the police, but also the private sector in preventing cybersecurity leaks or doing that forensic analysis for building a case for prosecution of somebody who's breached security system. Computer science, very much on developing, future thinking, computer solutions, algorithms, developing new applicational uses. Computing is more both is hardware and software side of computing, and can lead to opportunities in many different sectors, from mobile application development to network design. And software engineering is BEng program, which is offering the opportunity into applicational development, both at desktop, laptops, cloud-based applications, or mobile technology these days, and smart devices. Again, we have a foundation level entry if you don't meet the entry requirements for the BSc and the BEng program. And we do offer a route through on these programs with a year in industry, which can be done in the UK or abroad. We've also, this year, we're offering from September an MSc in Data Intelligence, which is data science in action, and is supporting opportunities for students who may have not done an undergraduate degree in computing related area, but have studied a STEM or near STEM related degree and wish to move into a computing profession, and particularly data science areas of opportunity. And there's large growth of employment in data science at the moment. And also there's the MSc by research. Next slide, please. So engineering at Canterbury Christ Church, as I say, is a new provision. We've received over 14.6 million now in government local government and national government funding and charity funding support the regional growth and nationally and global growth in engineering. What's unique about our engineering, the whole thing has been designed regarding staff, students, the curriculum, how we support students, and the facilities are inclusive in promoting and supporting an inclusive diversity of students and staff. And developing particularly engineering solutions that are fit for purpose for everybody. So the classic example, if you think about cars, particularly large cars, and look at the accelerating pedal, most women who have a shoe size, the UK's shoe size less than a 5, usually less than a 6, they will, when they're pressing the gas pedal, have their leg floating in the air, their heel cannot touch the floor. So you can see cars have been very much designed for a male foot, which is often greater than a size 6, UK size 6, which means actually driving for distance is actually very tiring for a female if your foot is constantly suspended in the air. And there's lots of examples where engineering has only been specifically designed, often for a white male. There is 2 soap dispensers in the marketplace at the moment, automated soap dispensers that will not dispense to somebody of skin of colour. They're only looking for white skin, and they certainly shouldn't have gone to market. So the whole curriculum is designed getting people to understand, the students to develop engineering solutions that are fit for society. We're developing, we've developed this year a very effective use of blended online learning, support students with lectures and knowledge transfer areas, and then we bring into the practical base, so that face-based learning, to apply that learning in practice in our nice new facilities. And the framework of learning and pedagogy approach that we use to support students' learning is the CDIO framework developed by the MIT University in the USA, which is where we're industrially sourcing problems from industry, and the students are working on conceiving, designing, implementing and operating those solutions and pitching it back to the business. So gaining that experience of pitching to business and selling their ideas, and often the business is taking those ideas forward to support their businesses. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Mohammed.
Bear with me, oh yeah, there we go.
Thank you. So as I've highlighted, we're a growing inclusive school. So amongst our staff, increasingly are a mix of Black, Asians, minority ethnics, and increasing female members of staff. So we're not atypical of a typical engineering department as in the UK, which tends to be very stereotypically white and male. This is reflected also in our intake for engineering students and computing students. So you can see the school is very diverse mix, and also importantly, the academic staff appreciate and understand international students. 5 of the staff are from overseas, from India, Iran, Syria, Mexico, who are supporting the curriculum and developing students, and they themselves came to the UK to study and have stayed, so they fully understand the challenges of coming to a new country to study, leaving that home. I've studied abroad, so I'm familiar with the challenges of picking up your suitcase and travelling abroad to study, and the unfamiliarity of the environment that you walk into, and as well as getting on and concentrating on your studies. So we appreciate about that transitional period and settling you into your studies. Next slide, please. So new engineering facilities, as you can see, large amounts of learning space, and also COVID secure. So I personally designed the space to replicate a modern industrial manufacturing environment. So it's very clean lines, very white, and lots of sinks everywhere, and they're non-touch sinks, so you actually usually need to touch and wash your hands. So every room you walk into, you can wash your hands in the engineering facility. So this has worked out very well for COVID, and the air conditioning circulation as well is the highest it can be, because we have medicine also on one floor of the building. So we are very much COVID secure. Next slide, please. So part of this CDIO engineering development is principally we've developed, and how we've developed the CDIO is to embed that cooperation with industry. So we're sourcing industry projects, so you get a real opportunity to interview industry to understand what their problem is, and for you to conceive and design and implement and operate an appropriate solution. And as I say, part of that formulation of your groups and how you'll be working is adopting good inclusive engineering education practice, so you feel included and not excluded in part of that development. And we are developing the staff to make sure we constantly make sure we have that inclusive diversity at the forefront of our degrees to support you in your learning, and so you can fulfill your ambitions in the future for job applications and future career. Next slide, please. And these are some of the photographic examples for last year's foundation year students. We worked with Bart and Marina last year, academic year, on developing a testbed solution, mechanical electronic control problem, to test one of their retracting roofs. They needed to test its wear and tear. And they also were looking at recycling the stays of manufacturing their pulleys. They're a high-end manufacturer of equipment for the yachting community, and so they originally used virgin plastic, and they wanted to look at regrounding the stays off their pulleys when they were back in plastic manufacturing these pulleys, to reground them and use them again to make the pulleys. And they wanted to know whether the credibility of those pulleys was going to be the same as their virgin manufactured products, which we were able to prove. So they were able to recycle their plastics for manufacturing their products, and also reduce their costs and environmental waste. Next slide, please. So these are some of the views from industry who have contributed very much so to development of the curriculum in engineering and computing. And particularly welcome the CDIO project's opportunity for them to work with us in supporting and developing the student learning, but also to gain that benefit out from those projects, because they set seeds of ideas that they can take forward to support their business. Next slide, please. And this is a viewpoint from a second year student who's also set up the Engineering Society, which runs our Students' Union, and who's proactively with his peers, a mix of local and international students, have created this wonderful Engineering Society, which their activities have been driven online, partially due to CDIO this year, COVID this year, but they've run extra classes for their peer groups on a Wednesday evening, invited in a variety of guest speakers, to develop their knowledge beyond the curriculum and attendance in the university, but also to create better, more of a sense of community, and to look at working on engineering projects and competitions. And 3 of our female students this year have been positively engaged in some engineering competitions and done extremely well during these, getting in the top 5 of national competitions. And one of the teams was an international student, and 2 local students, and 2 of them having to study remotely at the moment due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. And as you can see, this last year, we were asked to get involved in looking at the development of PPE equipment for supporting COVID-19. And just even this piece of equipment, because of the cleaning processes that are going to be needed to involve, use of using resources and cheap resources to support manufacturing this for the NHS, which is of course one of the largest employers in the UK. Needed both chemical engineers input for the fluid dynamics and flow, the airflow from the backpack, the mechanical engineering design of how we're creating that pack, manufacturing that pack, and the headgear associated with it, biomedical engineering, understanding airflow and supporting air venting and comfort for the users. And bear in mind also making sure it's inclusive, because an awful lot of the PPE that's been marketed and sold this year for COVID-19 has been based on a white male head, which means a number of females, the PPE has been ill-fitting and not helpful and causing pressure headaches, and the equipment's too heavy to support the muscular dimensions of the female, and the female upper body strength is different. So, and to work with project design engineers as well to make sure that the engineering is appropriate for manufacturing, but appropriate form as well, so comfort, etc., and wearability for the users. Next slide, please. So student employability, so Barton Reader's feedback last year on the projects, and so they're so impressed that they are involved again this semester in another project with our level 4 students. But some of these quotes are from Forbes and different public domain information. So the MSc for Data Intelligence highlights that there's going to be 106% increase in need for data scientists, so hence the MSc in Data Intelligence, but also from the respects of application development, so software engineering, computing science. There's going over the next 5 years, and security issues and cybersecurity. There's a desperate need for computing security forensic professionals, and 165% increase. And as you can see from the engineering graduate salary, it's ranged from 26 to 29,000 in the UK. And the UK has a national shortage of engineers, just as the rest of the world has as well. So everybody is seeking engineers at the moment. Next slide, please. Thank you. Do feel free to ask any questions. I notice there's a Q&A section already starting to ask questions.
Sure.
Sorry, Mohammed.
Go ahead.
Are the engineering programmes accredited? Not at the moment, but we will be applying for accreditation. The IMechE has said we can apply for early accreditation. We are looking at that for this next summer. So they did say after we've operated the first year and second year, they will be willing to come in to look at accreditation. And chemical engineering is the final year completes next year on the 3-year programme. So we'll be looking to get chemical engineers in next year. Can you tell me more about the eligibility requirement for the MSc by research programme? So you'll need to, just let me bring up the entry requirements for MSc by research for CCU. Normally, people with MSc by research can approach us with a research project idea, and we can evaluate that, whether it's suitable, and we have the capabilities to support. I'm just checking what the criteria, because the masters, taught masters, is entry requirements is a 2-2. Does Canterbury Christ Church only offer webinar in engineering? Can you expand a little bit more, Awatumi, what you're asking is? So you're looking for art, English education and linguistics. Yes, Canterbury Christ Church University does have a very proactive arts. Now, it depends on your definition of art. So we have the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. So there is media, there is graphic design, there is computing game design, there is humanities subjects of English, history, obviously, and very much medieval history available at Canterbury Christ Church. And I think also English literature, and TEL. So teaching English overseas, TELSOL.
I think there's one at the bottom.
Well, is saying he's not been able to hear anything. Is this?
Yeah, I can hear things fine.
People are asking for the PowerPoint. Okay, so MSc Data Intelligence. So digital intelligence, we are seeking people with a degree in a 2-2 or more, and we are interested in students who have a STEM, so that means science, technology, engineering or mathematics degree, or near STEM, which means economics, accountancy, so any curriculum studies which is involved on biology, if they've got experience of numeracy, equation rearranging and statistics, probably are suitable for the MSc in digital intelligence. Okay, so how much teaching is taking place and how much practical base? Well, the practical base is all taught as well, and face-to-face contact. So typically it's 50-50, though in computing, in some areas and some modules like computer programming, it will be more likely to be 100% practical based learning of both the knowledge and applying it in practice. We have active learning facilities, so it's not a traditional lecture, and even when we do the kind of teaching online, it's actually students are expected to be doing things as well as the knowledge transfer through the lecture sort of activities. So we have active learning spaces where we'll have 2 hours where students will do mini laboratory activities and tutorials and only have very mini lectures in there. So it's a very active way of learning. The students participate in learning and really give chance to contextualize that knowledge into practice. All programs, placement opportunity, as I say, in engineering, there's a module to do placement in a different kinds of way, and on computing related program subject area, you can do a year-long placement. Okay, intake. So I'll need to bring up statistical data for our programs. So overall, the different areas, the UK based, I'm seeking at the moment this year across the engineering programme on the BEng and MEng, is 111 students across the chemical, mechanical, and product design and biomedical students. I'm looking for achieving 50 foundation year engineering students, and it's what I'm planning for. For computing, I'm looking at 100 students across the first year level, all computing programs, but at the foundation level, I'm looking at 55 students on the foundation year across the computing programs. But there is flexibility, and that's being increased. And our intake for, because we're new, but our intake last year new students to our foundation year and level 4 was 86 students. And the computing area, we took 110 students in from foundation year and first year level. Yes, and we do have Matlab in the curriculum, and we have control modules. And what's typical for our institution and not typical at other institutions, we've ensured that control learning, automation learning is happening right on. So they do Matlab and they do on practice control in their first year, or even at foundation level and in the second year. So the example I showed you with the foundation year project with the Arduino and that automated system for testing that closing roof, the students were actually applying control even at that point as well. So the staff have been very keen to introduce things very early. We even are getting the foundation year students to do some finite analysis of, so do some small CAD designing and finite analysis on those designs at foundation level. I'm not aware of any other programme in the UK challenging the students to do engineering in practice at foundation level and at level 4 without the FEA. We are really enabling the students very early on to apply the engineering science. So yes, students blended approach. So this year we have been very much supporting the international students who've been working remotely because they've been trapped to various locations abroad, not being able to return. We've sent them out a shopping list of things that they can activate and utilise to do practice-based learning at home and support their learning with the theoretical learning. Though next year we are planning to be on campus, and we are on campus now, and that our international students have been getting back and making sure they're quarantined over Easter and are currently in the laboratory. But we have done the online active learning in lectures, and now they're in practice in the labs. The requirements of the Bangladesh undergraduate, postgraduate. So the entry is meeting the entry requirements on conversion of what they have studied prior to university and whether that converts. We have a look-up system to check that they meet our requirements to entry requirements, whether it's at foundation level or at level 4, and the same for postgraduate levels. They're going to need a degree related either in STEM, near STEM, and have some mathematical ability.
Thank you. And Uday, just to expand on that, if you have any further if you need further information, then please reach out to Noor, who's based in Dhaka, and Faisal, who are the business development managers. They'll go through entry requirements, but the typical entry requirement for Bangladesh, I believe it's 2.7%. For direct entry from your HSE, which is equivalent to A levels. They must also include maths and physics in there, as mentioned earlier on. And for the postgraduate, it's normally we require an undergraduate degree, IT engineering related degree, for around 60 to 65%, again, depending on the subject.
And you've so Ganesh has asked about physically challenged students. Will they have a separate class and separate accommodation? Okay, so the university has appropriate accommodation for physically disabled students. As to class, no, they'll be in class with their peer group, and it's our requirement to make reasonable adjustments to make sure. But we have also made sure in the laboratories we have adjustable desk tables, work services that they can work. Students already work with their peer group. There's space for them to be able to work around. Grading policies like, are they based more? Okay, so no, grading has to be meeting the learning outcomes of the module. So you have met the knowledge acquisition that is required. So at first year level, it's important that students demonstrate they're meeting the knowledge. In their second year, it's about demonstrating they are applying that knowledge to practice. And by third year, they're showing that critical analysis of their understanding the knowledge and practice. Where we do group work, we do use good best practice methodologies, self and peer assessment. And the methodology applied to that is the students will gain a group mark, but then gain an individual mark. So it is really for them to require to engage and participate in that group work and demonstrate to their peers that contribution, because their grade could go up or down according to that level of engagement. So no, students cannot join a piece of group work and snooze and not participate. Their peers will fail them. So it is about actively engaging in that learning and demonstrating that learning.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anne. So there's a couple of other questions in another section. So one of them is, could you please confirm what grade is at least required in mathematics and physics for international UG students?
Okay, so the entry requirements is 88 UCAS points and 128 the BEng, and 128 UCAS points for the MEng. So you would need to demonstrate passing a maths or physics and having that necessary UCAS points, which we can convert. So what we're looking for is equivalent to students studying an A-level maths or an A-level physics or a BTEC engineering. What I do know is that the students' education in, for example, Nigeria, it's not a level 3. So it's between a GCSE and A-level. So our Nigerian students have been typically offered entry requirements on the foundation year because it doesn't convert to meet the UK entry requirements. So they'll be offered a foundation year. And we are aware of some of the Indian-based education results. It's more of sits between a level 2 and a level 3, and the students have come through on a foundation year. But the students are thriving and doing really well. In actual fact, our 2 students from Mauritius joined us on the foundation year last year, previous academic year, and then now at that first year level, they're doing really well. Thank you.
Brilliant. And could you please provide us a little bit more information on the work placement that you mentioned earlier on?
So we're at the start of this journey. So currently at the moment, we've had a chemical engineering student who has been on placement with a pump manufacturer on what day, so effectively like day release. So 1 day a week, he goes and works at that pump manufacturer, and he's been doing this since October, November time. But the program director of that program has also negotiated with another manufacturer 4 placement opportunities for the students to apply for to go on placement this summer, supporting the businesses on some projects and activities. We've also got, for the first years in engineering, there's an opportunity of tourism working for a local manufacturing of fishing weights to be looking at replacing lead material to another material for them over the summer as well. So we're working with local industry and identifying those, but there's also nationally placements opportunities operating, and we have a very good careers and enterprise centre who can support in developing student CVs and applications for typical placement opportunities. What I will say is some of the markets have changed, particularly for the year out placement. When I was dealing with placements at my previous institution, some of the firms, because of their restrictions of visas, couldn't take international students, so your visa permits you to work. It's the sensitivity nature of their business. But some of those businesses, because they are so desperate for engineers, have even negotiated with the government to revise those situations as well. So I'm aware of that because we've got some of those sensitive businesses in Kent.
Brilliant, thank you. And we have one more question. So could you please let us know what sort of backgrounds you would consider the students for the postgraduates manufacturing range of degrees, engineering degrees?
So I'd be looking at anybody who's done an engineering degree right across the board, whether it's general engineering, electronic, electrical, mechanical, biomedical, anything, automotive, but also near what I would call STEM is biology, chemistry, physics. Okay. Psychology if they did maths A level, so they've got that level of mathematical ability. And near STEM, we're suggesting accountancy, economics, anybody who feels comfortable with numbers, manipulating numbers, and can demonstrate that ability to learn.
Okay, brilliant. Sorry, we've got one more that's come in. So in terms of entry requirements, the normal entry requirements for a student in India is 60%. But if a student has around 50%, but a good work history to back that up, like 2 years plus or 3 years plus, would you look at those individual applications?
Yes, we look at everybody individually. Yes, yes, and we do recognise industrial learning, and if it's relevant, industrial learning.
Okay, brilliant. That's all of the. Actually, we might just have one more. How would we agree on the placement options based on the current situation for international students?
So, as I say, when they apply, so if the students apply to the degree in the computing area, the degree with placement, their visa will be appropriate visa to enable them to do a placement. And the students then, it is the responsibility of the student to be applying for those placement opportunities. Whereas the engineering degree, because we haven't done it with a year in industry, they'll probably be looking at a summer placement opportunity or a day release. It's within the period of their study, and they're allowed under the visa requirements typically to work 20 hours or less per week. So it can fall within that tier 4 visa requirement.
Brilliant, fantastic. So that's the end of the session. So I'd like to first of all thank Dr. Anne for joining us today and giving us a very insightful information and details on the engineering school at Canterbury Christ Church University. So thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all of our guests from around the globe. I can see many people on here at the moment for joining us. We look forward to welcoming you at Canterbury Christ Church in the summer this year at the new facilities on site for engineering students. So it's an exciting time for everyone, in terms of the lockdown. The UK's coming out of a lockdown, it's in the right direction. So things are looking up for the UK market and for UK international students. And again, I look forward to speaking to you over the next couple of months regarding further information or anything that you do require. Please do get in touch with your program consultant or business development managers in country for more information. Would you like to add anything, Can?
To access the website, we've got some wonderful video footage of the new building available on the website, and photographs going up all the time about the space, so you can share those with prospective students. Do feel free to drop an off if you've got any questions to the international office, and they will share back with me. And as I say, we're more than willing. I've interviewed this year students from South Africa, so unusual applications we will process manually and consider students the opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.